Music matters. Miss Allie Evenson. How you doing?
It's Evenson.
Evenson?
Yeah,
Really?
I know.
Are you serious?
No, I'm dead serious.
I've been saying Evenson.
Everyone does.
Well, that's a tough start.
No, it's a great start, I think.
It's really Evenson?
Yeah, it's Evenson.
I've been saying Evenson.
That's okay.
I'm sorry.
No, it's really okay.
I apologize. What did you say? Yeah.
Okay, good. Yeah.
You should shout out them, though.
Yeah, no, shout out them.
Miss Allie Evenson. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing good. Thank you for doing this.
Yeah, of course.
Appreciate you sticking with it. I know we had a bunch of back and forth trying to make it work. It's been crazy times.
We did, yeah.
Yeah, it was we tried and then all kinds of shit happened and then you went on tour.
Yep.
Do you feel settled back from tour yet? You've been off for a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks now?
3 weeks.
3 weeks,
I
nice.
think. No, I feel back to normal. Back to work.
Did you get back in the swing of things fast, you feel like?
No.
Really?
I was pretty exhausted. After the last show I did, which actually was separate from the Wallace tour. I did a headline in Grand Rapids.
Nice.
And the day after, I filmed 2 music videos.
Oh my God. Back in LA or in Michigan?
In Michigan, after doing 5 shows in a row.
Holy shit.
So I got home.
Exhausting.
Yeah, and I was just dead.
Just absolutely dead?
Yeah. Just done for.
Did you take a few weeks off to kind of get your grips about you again?
I took maybe 3 days off.
That's insane. That's crazy. Yeah, it's hard, I think, when things are happening and things are moving. You just kind of never want to have the momentum die down.
Exactly.
And sometimes I think that's something really hard about being a musician or working in art as well. It's everybody loves this so much where it's sometimes we don't even think of it as work, even though it very much is. And it definitely taxes your mind and your body in the same way. We just for whatever reason, we're oh, we love it. So, we're not human.
Yeah, exactly.
Why? Are you from Grand Rapids?
No, I'm from, no. If I said I was from Detroit, I would be
capping.
Yeah. But I am from Port Huron, Michigan, which is actually 50 minutes north of Detroit.
Oh, okay. My girlfriend lives in Ann Arbor.
That's not anywhere near Port Huron, but I do love Ann Arbor.
I just knew it was in the same place.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, Michigan's a beautiful state.
Opposite directions. It is very beautiful. I do miss the northern part of Michigan and just hiking. I love hiking, and that part of the country has very beautiful foliage.
Yeah. So that's the part that you're from, northern Michigan?
No.
Okay, gotcha. So where's where you're from?
I'm from the Thumb.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Michigan's also really deceptively big. Every time I'm there, I don't realize how big it is. I also think that's California brain though.
Yeah. I mean, Michigan, it takes a long time to drive through the state. It's kind of like Ohio.
Yeah.
Except Michigan is more tolerable than Ohio.
I've never been to Ohio. I guess I can't speak on it. But yeah, I drove from Ann Arbor to, what was the place I went? I don't know. My girlfriend's friend's cabin in somewhere in northern Michigan.
Yeah.
I'm not sure where. It was on a lake. But and I was very surprised how we drove 4 hours and we were in the same state. And I thought only California and Texas had that.
No.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, it's nuts.
How was the headlining show in Grand Rapids? Was it the first time you'd done a headlining show out there?
In Grand Rapids, yeah. It was really fun. And there was a lot of people there. Sick. I was so happy. I thought there were going to be 2 people there and it was going to be my mom and dad.
Why did you think that?
I don't know. I'm just no one's going to come and see me.
Yeah.
But then they did.
Do you feel how long ago did you move out here?
8 months ago.
Oh, okay.
I know.
So not too long.
No, it's not been long.
Yeah, so I'm sure you feel you kind of have a musical community out there then, right? Because I'm sure you made music out there for a long time.
Oh yeah, I've been in the music scene in Detroit for 8 years, 7 years.
Well, how do you feel about where it is right now? What's the coolest stuff to you that's coming out of there?
Detroit? Oh my God. I mean, there's a lot. Obviously the techno house scene is so sick there because it's the home to it.
Yeah.
But also my friends are in bands out there and they're really awesome. My friend, shout out to her. Her band is called Dick Texas.
Dick Texas.
Yeah, she just released an album a couple days ago and it's really, really good.
Okay, cool.
So that's really sick. But I think most of the artists that I know out there either have moved here or have moved elsewhere, but there's still a lot of awesome people in Detroit doing stuff.
Yeah.
Like the R&B scene is so sick too.
Yeah. I like had never thought about it until you just said this, but a lot of the electronic influence that comes in your music, it does make sense that you're from out there. It feels like that world would influence you for sure.
Oh, totally.
Because I definitely had never like it never crossed my mind that you being from Michigan, like obviously like that scene with the electronic music that's coming out of Detroit is so huge, and your music rides this really, really cool line where it's like very much it's in so many different worlds, like it's in like, I mean, I hate like labeling genre shit, but it's like,
of course,
it has elements of electronic and like pop and singer-songwriter stuff, and there's just a lot of things going on in it, where it almost like transcends like being labeled in one genre, which I think is really cool.
Yeah, for sure.
And I also think like a lot of your music, like different elements pull from different genres. Like I think like vocally, a lot of the effects and stuff that are applied to your voice definitely feel more electronic and stuff. But did you kind of grow up in that world of electronic music, and was that a big influence for you?
That was actually kind of a later influence for me. I think growing up I did theater, so that was a huge influence, and I think that shows through my music. Is very dramatic, and all the visuals are very dramatic and like storytelling. I don't know. Anyway, but I grew up I listened to a lot of obviously show tunes, and my dad was really into like folk and country, and my mom was really into like new wave, so I guess that's kind of electronic. Like Joy Division and, you know, all that stuff, Echo and the Bunnymen. So like it was kind of a nice little mix of those two, but I think the common thread with both of them was the Beatles. So that was probably like one of my first influences. But later, I think when I started going out in Detroit, I started going out to like clubs where there were DJs playing, and it was just like I started dancing a lot, and I was like, damn, this makes me feel really good. So I think that was really cool to just like have that influence come at a later time in my life.
Yeah, for sure.
When I was just like an adult and could
like more primed for
process it well. But it was so cool.
I think that's like a deceptively like difficult skill to achieve, the ability to make people dance. I think, like, I mean, I was talking to somebody on the show about this recently, but I was talking about like, man, like I feel music so physically, like I feel it so incredibly physically, and I think that's always the mark of something that I love, is that I can't see it live and not want to move my body in some way, shape, or form. It's just like, I don't know, it's a physical art form in general, but I feel like there's just such a difficult thing to master in terms of like the performance art of making people move, and like in like so many different ways, like making them feel comfortable enough, making, you know, them feel like you're somebody they want to root for. Obviously, like having a sense of even just like rhythm enough to like be able to make somebody move and stuff. There's such an art to that. There
is, definitely. I don't know if I've mastered that yet, but it's okay.
But it's cool that you kind of have like all that mix of influences, because I definitely hear the like the more singer-songwriter, like folky stuff in your lyricism, but it's kind of contrasted with this like more electronic pop palette that I definitely hear those influences coming through for sure. It's interesting to hear you talk about the theater world as well, because I think like your music, I wouldn't put it on that, because I think like because it's interesting. I think like sometimes I'm gonna sound like I'm shitting on theater, and I'm not, but like I think
it's okay.
I think sometimes those worlds collide in an awkward way, which
they do.
Which I don't get from your music at all. It feels tasteful enough to the point where it's like it has elements of world building, but it's not like the world building is the only focus, where it's like it feels like it's forced, you know? Do you feel like do you find yourself referring to a lot of the stuff that you learned doing theater growing up, or is that kind of like just like an implicit influence at this point?
I think it's just subconscious in there. Like I don't think I've ever referenced anything, any show tune ever, like when I've been working on my music, but I think it's just so ingrained in me that it will just always be there. Like I just remember everything. So.
It's like a subconscious influence at this point.
Is,
It's just like ingrained within you. Do you the setup you had on tour, I was curious about it, because I haven't seen you live yet, but how I found your music was Mario saw you live and then played me your album, and I love it. I was blown away by it.
Thank you.
Of course, but I was curious like how you translate a lot of the electronic elements of your music live, because there is certainly like a band element to what you're doing, and Mario mentioned that you did play with a band, But in terms of some of like the processed vocals and stuff, like have you gone through a lot of iterations to find the live setup that you know vibe with the most?
Yeah, I mean, like what we did on tour was it was me and a drummer and tracks, and I was on guitar, so I was playing pretty much all of the like, bless you Mario, not the lead parts, but like the rhythm, like you know, basic layers. And we specifically for Shitty Heaven, which is the one that has just the crazy
probably
vocals.
My favorite song on the project.
Thank
and
you.
I'm excited to talk about it.
For that one, it was pretty much just I would sing along to the vocoder that was happening. I think eventually it'd be cool to get to a point where I have a keyboard and I'm like able to play it and sing it. But I think for now the live setup is like just kind of using tracks for different layers and elements. I just played a show at El Cid and it was full band, and that felt really, really good.
Interesting.
Yeah.
What about that setup did you like more than just doing the tracks and the drums, just the energy of it?
Yeah, and it just felt more live and more like, I mean, I'm just able to play off of people. Like I'm able to just like stand back and rock out and like, you know, kind of like stand next to the bassist and like have a moment together or like whatever. So it's like, I don't know, it just felt more live and it felt like a new kind of way to see the songs, which was so cool.
Yeah, there's certainly like a little bit of dynamic element that you lose when it's kind of just you or you and a drummer on stage, especially with a drummer, because you got to kind of walk over all the way to their drum set and like figure out how to get your way in there.
I know. And it's like, it's really fun, and obviously it's like way cheaper than bringing a full band on tour, but also like ideally the setup would be full band. So
yeah, that makes sense. I feel like when you strip things down to like their most basic elements, like all you really, really, really need is drums, I think sometimes. But like, dude, like not having a drummer sometimes can be such a challenge. I feel like having that energy just in live drums, it just propels so much what makes you feel live music, I think.
Exactly.
Yeah, but like you said, like it can get kind of expensive touring with a whole band.
Of course.
Do you think you're gonna kind of roll with the more full band setup whenever you can?
Yeah, I think definitely. And I think like the stuff that I am working on now is more like full bandy.
Nice.
So it'll be, I think that's, and also like I'm just partial to a band.
Yeah.
I just love a band. I love multiple people to look at on stage. Yeah. It's just fun. Yeah. I like studying what everyone's doing. So
it's like an exercise in human psychology almost. Shitty Heaven, just cool touching on it again, but like that I think it's my favorite or one of my favorites on the album. But I think
Thank you.
Of course. But I think what I love about it so much is the placement of it. Like it feels so much like an intro. It almost feels like you're rolling back the curtains to this world. Yeah. And I think it's very, actually when we're talking about theater elements, like that is very much like a theatrical song.
It is.
It's huge. And I think the lack of drums until the end is something that hits really hard when they come in. And the vocal layering on it is just nuts.
It's nuts.
Like, I was curious, how long did that one take to record? And is that more effect-driven stuff, or were those all, like, individual vocal layers you were tracking?
So, originally, the demo for that song was so different. It was, like, kind of Beatlesy.
Interesting.
And it was, like, you know that part in the breakdown where it's like, that's originally how the song was.
Where it kind of fades out for a second.
Yeah, like that's the demo of the song in there, which is so cool. And I knew I wanted that song on the project. And that was one of the songs where we were like, we should just like toss it or just like not do it.
Why?
And because I didn't like the production of it. I loved the writing, but I was like, I'm not really into the world that it's living in, the space that it's living in.
Yeah.
And Nigel, my producer, was like, what if we just flipped it? And I was like, what if we vocoder? And he was like, yep. And so some of those vocals are layers of me singing, but most of them are just taking the lead vocal and running it through a vocoder.
Interesting.
But he used, I don't know, don't quote me on anything I say. I don't know which like plugin or anything he used. But we started to do that and I was like, this is it. And then I referenced that one Laurie Anderson song, Oh Superman.
I don't think I know it.
You know that one?
Yeah.
It's so weird. It's like, oh Superman. And it's the one where she's like, ha, ha, ha.
Yeah, I don't think I know it, yeah.
It's so crazy. So I was like, it should just feel awful. Like, it should just feel uncomfortable. Because it's a song about being scared that you're gonna die at 27 and not leave behind anything of value. So it's like, I don't know, it's an existential crisis song, so I'm like, it should feel like an existential crisis. And it got to where it was, and we were like, yeah, this is it. And then I was like, this should be the album opener.
Interesting. So as soon as you kind of flipped it, you knew? Yeah,
because originally the album opener was just going to be Where Are You Going? But we were like, no, it starts the album on too much of like a happy note.
Interesting.
And the album is so not happy. It's a devastating album.
Yeah, it is. Even and I'm excited to get into some of the thematics of it, but I think a lot of the themes that I resonate with the most are those kind of more existential fear of growing up, fear of dying, fear of leaving nothing.
Yes.
And I think Shitty Heaven, as an intro, obviously touches on that a lot.
Yeah.
The line about being 17. What's the line about being 17 where you reference it? Or 27, sorry.
Tell me when I'm 27, fun in hell or shitty heaven. And that's like a play on words of New York or LA. Yeah. Because people call New York fun hell and LA shitty heaven.
Okay.
I think it's really funny.
Interesting. Yeah, but it's thematically throughout the project, it's so interesting because there are some songs that feel like more intimate love songs with interesting flips on the themes, and the other half of them are just existential dread.
I know.
So it's it kind of creates this cool contrast, I think, where you go back and forth, and it's almost like two different versions of Allie. And I think there's something really cool about that. When you're writing songs like that, because just talking about the world behind this project, Greater, I think it's incredibly cohesive, and I think that's one of my favorite things about the project. Everything from the sonics down to the aesthetics and the colors and the blues and everything. It really feels like a world. And I think I'm always incredibly partial to projects like that, and it's one of my favorite things about it. But building out some of those more aesthetic parts of the world, is that difficult to make those fit in with the themes, or do the two kind of go hand in hand? And in terms of process, are you building out some of that world prior to going into the sonics, or does it kind of happen simultaneously?
I think some of it was built out beforehand, but most of it was kind of built out in the studio. And my producer Nigel, his producer tag is Nige. I met him in 2023, in November of 2023, and that was when I had started writing the songs.
It's a full year.
Yeah. Before. And I took a trip out here because he's out here. I took a trip out here and I met him for the first time. He's from Detroit though, which is funny. We just never really knew each other.
That's how it always goes, dude. Whenever I get down here, I just naturally gravitate towards Bay Area people without even trying.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
But he does a lot of work for my label at the time, and we met and immediately just we wrote Obituary in one session.
It's a devastating song.
It's so sad.
Yeah.
And we just finished it, and I was like, that is the easiest I've ever worked with someone ever. And I just it was just an immediate click between us, and I was like, this guy completely understands my vision.
Interesting.
So I think just take that was kind of the what's that word, the
stars aligning?
No, it was the fuck, I don't know. that was what I based the album off of. That
gotcha.
Song. I kind of had that song and the world that song, the focus point, the focal point.
There you go.
And I was like, this is kind of the world that I want this album to live in, which is
interesting,
lush and weird though, and dark, whatever. Yeah. So we just kind of after that happened, I was like, I need to work with him more. So every month, starting in January till I moved out here, I would come out here for a couple weeks, and we would just work and write, and I did sessions with other people around the city. so it's like half of those songs were written at home and half of them were written out here, but all of them were kind of built out here, which was cool. With Nigel.
What about, because I mean that song is so vulnerable, and I think like it's really crazy to hear you say that was the first song you recorded with him.
Yeah,
because it's such a vulnerable song.
It is. And I like, so he and I kind of came up with the idea of writing a song about like falling in love with someone based on or after you read their obituary in the newspaper and being like, oh, I wish I would have known you, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And as I was writing it, I realized like a lot of the lyrics pertain to my grandpa, who I never met. Wow. Which was so weird. And I was like, damn, maybe subconsciously I'm writing this about my grandpa.
Wow.
I know, isn't that crazy?
That's crazy. I'm named after my great grandpa, and
so
I
cool.
never met him.
Yeah.
And I think about that incredibly often.
Yeah.
So I'm like, what kind of man was he? Like,
I know.
I've never met him, but I'm named after him. And it makes you like, I mean, like, I don't want to be like existential about it, but like it makes you question, like, was that person who I want to be?
I know.
And I think like there's themes of that on the project too. I think like worrying about the person that you're going to become is a very present theme on this project. And I think, oh damn, there's one lyric I'm trying to remember. It's I think it's on Shitty Heaven, where you pretty much you're saying, are you the person who you're growing into?
Yeah, am I who I'm growing into?
Yeah, am I who I'm growing into? That lyric really hit for me as well.
Yeah.
Because there's so much truth in that. I think sometimes we grow in ways that we're not like consciously comprehending in the moment. And you look back and you're like, okay, like check in with myself. I'm here. Do I like the person I'm becoming? That's a scary thing.
It is. Yeah. And I think like also at that time, I did not like who I was.
Interesting.
And
why not?
I mean, throughout this whole project, I was going through a lot of mental stuff, and I was in like a not great relationship. And I think just like this whole album was written during that time in my life where I was like, I don't think I like who I am. And like, but some of it is like also self-love as well.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I feel like some of the songs feel like loving myself without like genuinely or like stating it. I don't know. I'm trying to think. Like One Trick Pony is
Cross
like
My Fingers comes to mind for
Cross
sure.
My Fingers is a fun little song. That song is weirdly, I wrote it from the point of view of my ex.
And I didn't pick up on that at all. That's so interesting to
hear.
So
it's like, it's not, I mean, the you know, the tense of the song and like the person singing the song, which is me, is singing it about like someone that they want to be around, but that person's afraid to commit. Of course. I wrote that about my ex and how she felt about me.
That's so fascinating.
So,
that's interesting.
It was a really cool, like, I wrote that on Zoom as well. With my friend Trella. Okay. Yeah. And we were talking about that, and I was like, that would be a really cool, like, I don't know, just exercise to do, is to write from someone else's point of view.
Was
about
that your first
yourself.
time doing that?
Yeah.
Oh,
it was cool.
Yeah, because I mean, like, I think about this all the time. I think like our perceptions of ourselves are entirely different than anybody else's perception of you.
Yes.
I think like we project all of our own anxieties, insecurities onto our perception of ourselves, but other people's like are probably so vastly different than that, because they're not feeling those anxieties, they're not feeling those like really, really stupid and insecure worries that we have about ourselves. When I was a senior in high school, I did like my senior project on like literally that. I did it on how different is your we had it. It was called like an inquiry project. Did you have one of those?
I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't think so.
It was like a thing we had to do in high school at the end of high school, where like you just ask like one really big question or whatever, and then do a whole project about it. But
that's fun.
It was fun. But mine was, how different is my perception of myself from other people's perception of me?
Oh God.
Yeah, and
it's scary to think about.
Yeah, it's kind of terrifying. It was one of the only things from high school, honestly, that like stuck with me in terms of like education. I think because like I did like actually like really, really go deep on that question and wrote like a bunch of essays and shit about it. But like, it's a really terrifying concept.
Yeah.
But I also think once you can like master the idea that everybody's perception is not yours, it's kind of a superpower, you know?
Yeah, and I think like, I don't know if you go through this too, but like, and maybe this is just because I, for the past like 5 years of my life, have been working through self like love exercises with myself. But there are like moments where I'll look in the mirror and I'm like, do people think you're a good person? Like, I'm like, I'm looking at myself, I'm like, is this a good person? Like, when people look at me, do they perceive me as like that's a good person.
Yeah.
And I think like I can't think about that too much because I'll go fucking insane. But like that is a lot of, that's like what the album feels like kind of as well.
Yeah. It's interesting to hear you say that as a guiding question though, like the idea like, am I a good person or not? Because that's such like a loaded question.
It is,
because it's obviously like there's so many ways to look at it, but I also think like, I don't know, sometimes I think about like people's perceptions, like at least I try to think about them like this. I often try to think about them as like entirely subjective, and there's like no objective truth, and like whether you are or are not a good person in somebody else's eyes is entirely dependent on the period of time at which you met them,
of course,
the day, how you were feeling.
I know,
like there's people, I had a friend who used to always say this, and he really like, it really touched me. I think about it a lot. He always talked about like this idea that like sometimes we perceive people as like rude or unfriendly when they're really just like anxious as fuck.
I know.
Like,
no, I know.
You know what I mean?
That's like huge. I've like TikTok has been showing me all of these videos of Chapel Roan recently, like out at events with celebrities, and they're like, why does she look so rude? And I'm like, dude, she looks anxious as fuck.
She's terrified.
Like she looks so scared right now. She just like, and like there was this one video where she was like just completely looking ahead, like somebody was talking to her and she like wasn't making eye contact. I'm like, that's not rude, that's like she's anxiety. Nervous. Like literally leave her alone.
Yeah, that's a really easy thing to do with social media, I think, is like just act like, dude, that's one of my biggest pet peeves. Is like act like you just know absolutely everything about this person, who they are, where they were that day.
Alone.
Yeah.
What the hell?
Yeah. Well, it's easy.
Like
it's kind of the easy thing to do.
It is.
It's the easy thing to do is not think about it. And run to the comments and just say like, why does she look so miserable?
Yeah. The easy thing is to be like, oh, she must just be a mean person.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like you're stripping away all the context for it. Me and Mario always joke about this, but I always say like, whenever you like go in Instagram comment sections and you just see the most like heinous, disgusting shit, you always like click on their profile and then their bio says like AMS or like HMS, and it's like, oh, this person's in middle school. You're like, this person's literally 12 years old. Like that's why they think like this.
I know.
And then I think back and I'm like, damn, like, you know, when I was 12, I probably said some pretty terrible shit and thought terrible shit about people.
Stuff. Yeah. Like, I was so mean when I was 12.
Yeah, I think we all were.
Yeah, and it was just because I was so insecure.
Yeah, same.
So, geez. No, middle school was a dark time.
So?
Oh my God. Well, my best friend ever in the whole world, she and I have been friends since we were like 6 or 7.
Wow.
And in middle school, we went through this stage where like we were beefing all the time. We were just like not getting along. And I think I was really annoying in a different way than she was. Like we were both annoying for sure.
Everybody is in middle school.
We were annoying in very different ways, and some in the same way as well. But like, I think I was projecting for me being annoying, and I was like, she's obsessed with me. I was like, she won't leave me alone. And there was this like one moment where we were in the gym locker room and I was like, I don't like you, I'm not your friend. And she like,
it's like a scene out of a movie.
She started crying and like ran away, and then I was like, I'm so sorry. And then like after that we were just like together. Yeah. So I'm like, damn, we just really needed that like moment.
Yeah.
And now we're just like so good.
Yeah, formative in the friendship.
Yeah, no, it was really crazy.
I always think about like the way the kids act and some of the gross shit that they'll say.
Oh, I know.
And then this is a really scary concept, but I think about it a lot because having kids is a really terrifying concept to me, because I think the most terrible adults that we've ever met will one day have children, and they can consciously or unconsciously manipulate those kids to believe or think the exact same way that they do without any challenge of thought. And
it's
I don't
horrible.
know. I think it makes you a more empathetic person though to think like that, because like, fuck, dude, like some people like there's no way they could have turned out normal, you know?
I know. It's like, oh God. Sometimes I'll see. Not recently, this was like 2 years ago, maybe last year, I don't know. This was one of the times I was coming here to make my album, and I was on a really early Spirit Airlines flight.
Oh, I love those.
And I remember it so well. I was sitting there, I was eating like a little granola bar. It was like 7 a.m. And I hear this couple fighting, and they've got a kid, and they're just ripping into each other, and I look over, and it's a girl I went to high school with. And I'm like,
that's crazy.
Like, damn. 2 kids. I'm like, not good.
Oh.
Just horrible. Like, fighting.
Yeah.
Just like the kids are crying. I'm like, like, couldn't be me.
Yeah, and you feel bad for the kids because it's just like,
I know. I'm like,
come
here, baby.
on.
Let me take you away from that.
Yeah. Like,
let me take you to sunny Los Angeles.
Yeah.
But I'm like, no. They realized they were at the wrong gate because I was like, please don't tell me you're coming to LA.
And that's what they were arguing about?
No.
Oh, it was something else.
Something.
Yeah.
Dark. Sinister, I'm sure.
There's some people I've met where I'm like, the idea of you being like a mother or a father is fucking terrifying.
So scary.
Yeah.
Sometimes I think that about myself too, but I'm like, no, I think I would just be like blunt with the kids.
Yeah.
I'd just be like, well.
Yeah. Well, I think that there's something like beautiful and really real about that. I think
there is.
Like,
yeah.
I think you definitely have to teach kids like how real life can be and how tough it can be. I grew up like pretty middle class, and I always have been pretty thankful for that.
Same.
I'm really happy I didn't grow up with like a ton of money, because I think if I did, I'd be a pretty insufferable person.
Me too. I was an only child too.
Interesting.
So I'm glad I grew up like semi lower middle class.
Yeah.
Well, I was actually probably pretty mid class. Wow, I just stuttered.
Mid class.
Mid class. But yeah, if I was like an only child and a rich kid and also a musician my whole life, I'd be a tyrant.
Yeah.
I'd be horrible. Which
That's a
I feel like
cocktail.
Marty a little bit like that. So it's like the only childness is it's rough.
I can never like I try to think what that would be like. I mean, I grew up with 2 brothers, one of which is almost exactly a year younger than me, and then another one who's 5 years younger than me.
Okay. You're the oldest.
Yeah, I'm the oldest.
Nice.
So like I just cannot even conceptualize what it must have been like to grow up as an only child. It's got to be so vastly different from what I experienced.
It's like, and it shows now.
How so?
So much. Like my friend Katie, she and I are always like, only children. This is just so only children of us. I think you're just like, I've noticed you kind of are, you're pretty independent.
Yeah. Makes sense.
But sometimes to a fault. Like I don't like sharing things that much. I think I just expect, this is like also in a relation, like when I'm in a relationship with someone, I just kind of expect that person to want to do what I want to do. Because I'm like, oh, like we should do this today. We should watch this movie, blah, 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 blah. We should do this, everything that I want to do. And then I'm like, stop. There are other people
what do we want
in
to
the
do?
world.
Yeah.
So I think it just kind of, it fosters a little bit of like a me kind of thing. Because like also both of my parents rock. Like I have a really good relationship with both of my parents. They're divorced, but like I maintained a very good relationship with both of them.
Yeah.
And they're both artistic. Like my mom's an art teacher and my dad's a musician.
Wow.
So it's like, so they kind of just were like, molding me into this like prodigy thing. They're like, damn, we gotta capitalize on this.
Did they introduce you to music at a super young age?
Yeah. Well, my dad worked for the phone company, AT&T. I just like saying the phone company.
The phone company.
No, I know, because that's like what he called it. He was like, I'm work for the phone company.
I'm heading out to work at the phone company today.
Literally. And he was like, his job was going to houses to fix landlines.
Interesting.
Like he was a working man on the field. Like yeah,
that's about mom, as like middle class working as you can be.
Exactly. And my mom was a elementary school art teacher.
Similar. Yeah.
So similar thing, probably quite similar yearly pay.
Yeah.
Well, teachers get paid like shit. So
yeah, my mom's a teacher.
Actually, my mom probably got paid much less. Yeah. But like very much just like 2 creative people that realized that their daughter was talented, and they were like, shit. So they put me in like theater, music lessons, blah 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 blah. And then like also they were like my best friends.
Oh yeah.
So like and I had friends too. Like it wasn't like I was just like a loner. I had friends, but like also I didn't have siblings, so like I spent all my time with them.
It's your whole family unit.
Yeah. And they really didn't spend a lot on like, I don't know, they just like, our house is very normal. So like they would save up their money to go on trips, so we would go to Disney World quite often.
Nice. Mine was Disneyland.
Because of here.
Yeah, because of here.
So we would just drive all the way, because kind of Michigan to Florida is almost a straight shot down.
Oh, I guess so.
It
Geography.
would just, so we would just drive all the way down. We never flew because my dad is scared of flying.
Oh.
He's maybe not anymore. He's come out here.
Was that born out of like a bad experience, or was he always afraid of it?
I don't really know.
Interesting.
Actually, I don't know.
You could ask him.
I think I think he's just like afraid of heights.
Get
maybe?
the Mr. Evenson dad lore on flying.
Yeah, he'll watch this, so he'll probably tell me.
Shout out Mr. Evenson.
His name is Tyrone.
Tyrone. Shout out Tyrone. That's a hell of a name.
I know.
Tyrone Evenson.
Oh, he knows it too. But no, so we would go to Disney World all the time. So I think like just being an only child taught me that like my parents kind of gave me what I wanted.
Yeah.
All the time, which I think as I grew older, they stopped doing that, and they were like, we should actually start letting her like experience life things. And specifically with school too, they were like, we should let her fail, because I was like falling behind in class, and my mom was a teacher, so she would like have access to the whole, the school district. She was a part of it, so didn't matter what school I was at, like she had connections. And they had like, did you have like Parent Connect, like teacher, like your parents could check on? No. It was like an online thing, and your parents could check your grades and like your missing assignments. I think we did. I don't remember what it was called. When I was in high school, I found the form that I was supposed to like fill out in my freshman year, where your parents fill out all their info or whatever, and I stole it. And I don't think they know this to this day. So like, I mean, they might watch this. I don't know, but whatever. But wait, so they never got your report cards? Well, they got my report cards, but if my school tried to call them, they called me. You're like, hello. Yeah, well, no, I just never answer. That's insane. Yeah. No, like that online thing is evil. Yeah. It's so evil. Like I would come home and my mom would be like, on the fridge, on like the whiteboard, be like, these are your missing assignments. I'm like, shit. Oh, that's brutal. That's like the tough part of having a teacher mom. I know. But like ultimately, I needed that extra push. But also like it was good that I started to be like, I don't know, like I'm glad like I'm glad I didn't have like the best grades. Like I didn't have awful grades, but like, I stayed around a B average. Yeah. I wasn't like a straight A student. I was pretty similar. I was definitely a little bit less than a B average. I was probably more like a C average. Well, math was the only class I think I've ever failed. Yeah, I failed a couple math classes, yeah. Math was the one thing. I feel like people in music, they always suck at math. Don't get it. Yeah, it doesn't compute in the same way, which is interesting because music theory is really just math. Yeah. Yeah. Music theory? Fine. Really? Well, I took it. So I did 1 year. It is hard. Yeah, it's fucking hard, bro. I'm a drummer and I play like a little bit of guitar. But I took music theory my first year of community college, which was the only year of college I had. But I took music theory. It was as hard for me as math classes were. And because I just like grew up playing in like punk bands and like just like played by ear my entire life. And I play by ear too. And I think like, I mean, I did band in high school, so I had, well, I guess I've kind of been reading sheet music my whole life because I took cello when I was really young, but I was never like, I never made it past a certain level of it. Yeah. So I kind of just stayed at the maybe like most beginner level of it. And then high school band kind of pushed me a little bit further. I played upright bass. It was so fun. Nice. That's a sick instrument to learn as a kid. It was so fun. Yeah. And like in high school too, I got to like carry it around and I felt like a badass. Very immobile though, similar to drums. I know. I always said like never took it home, left it. Yeah. Left it in like I always said if I could redo it, I'd probably learn like bass guitar or like key or just anything but drums, because drums is hard. Just bringing shit around was so annoying. I know. It's so annoying. Yeah, it was like it was such an inaccessible instrument to like try to learn and gig with. Yeah. Did you, when you were a kid, and because that's really interesting to me, when you were a kid and your parents both kind of coming from those artistic backgrounds, did they, or when they put you into those things like theater and band and stuff at an early age, did you take to it in a way that you thought you would, like you loved it? Yeah. Oh, I think that's something really interesting. Like I taught music lessons for a while, during college. That was my side job. And I just witnessed so many parents putting their kids in classes and the kids just being miserable.
Hated it.
Just hated it. And it was so hard to teach them because I'm like,
they want to be here.
You want to be here?
Yeah.
Like, you hate me. You literally think I'm evil because I'm making you do this. Because that's what I thought when I was a kid when I didn't like something.
Yeah.
Like,
you think it's like vitriolic.
Yeah. So I think, surprisingly, I was happy with everything. The only thing I really didn't love doing was dance lessons.
Oh.
So I think, like,
interesting, because you said that you ended up liking dancing when you got older.
Dancing. I mean, I'm not like a dancer, but like I love going
Grooving.
out, having a couple drinks, dancing.
Yeah.
So fun.
Yeah.
So like, and I never disliked dancing when I was a kid. Like, I always would dance around my room and dance around the house, and like I loved that. I just didn't like I didn't like being taught something and then not being good at it.
Interesting.
And I think that still remains to this day.
Yeah.
Like, recently, what was I like all pissed off about? Oh, my friends wanted to go bowling, and I'm like, I hate bowling because I'm not good at it. And I'm just like, in like tennis, when Challengers came out, I wanted to like, I had taken tennis lessons as a kid, but like very like not tennis lessons, but like I was like, I'm gonna try it again. And I wasn't good at it. I was like, fuck this.
Yeah.
I'm not doing this anymore. I hate it.
I feel it. I'm very...
That's an only child thing.
Yeah.
I think that's a perfect example of it.
I'm very similarly brained, but in the fashion where, like, I'm so deeply competitive, and it probably comes from insecurity and also growing up with brothers. But I think, like, I'm so stupidly competitive that, like, if I'm not good at something, I want to be good at it so fucking bad.
Oh, same.
Like, and if I lose at something, like... I will
Does
do
it just hit
everything
you?
in my power to get good at it. Like, I just feel it.
Yeah.
Like, I'll get pissed about losing like Monopoly. Like,
oh, same. I don't like losing.
Yeah. Like,
I don't like it when people are like, haha, you lost.
Oh,
I'm like,
yeah.
don't say that to me.
Yeah.
What is wrong with you? I'm like, do you know that feels like a knife in my chest right now?
Yeah. Yeah.
God.
Did you grow up playing sports, or were you always in like music and theater and stuff?
I was always in music and theater. I did sports. I did track and field in middle school.
That's what I did in high school.
Which was so fun.
Yeah.
I loved it. Like, I had a really good time. I love running. Running's so fun to me. I actually don't like running now. Like, on a treadmill. No, I don't like working.
Well, no one likes working.
No one likes working out.
Yeah.
But I, like, when I was a kid, I would run everywhere. I loved running. But in high school, I just did marching band, which was kind of like counted as... If you
like
did marching band, you didn't have to do like a sport or whatever,
my school
or didn't
had
have
that
to take
too.
gym.
Yeah, that's what my school had too. If you, I think it was you played a sport or you did marching band. You got, which is interesting because, like, well, I guess it depends what you're doing in marching band. Because if you're in like drumline, you're carrying like some heavy shit.
Oh my god, the constant like drama was everyone in sports hated the marching band because they were like, this is not a sport.
Oh, that's so like,
you guys aren't working out. I'm like, you go to band camp then.
Yeah.
Band camp for us was a whole week long and like 12 hours every day out in the sun learning the routine, like learning the show.
That's working out.
I'm like, that is hard work.
Yeah. And
then you go eat terrible cafeteria camp food.
Yeah.
And then, I don't know, band camp was a crazy time.
Yeah, it feels like trying to like dismantle it and trying to like shit on it is similar to how like kids in high, well, like not kids, it was all like boys. Boys in high school would be like, yeah, like cheer's not a fucking sport, bro. Like if you're a cheerleader, like you're not working out, like you're not athletic.
That one pisses me off because it's like,
it's just like misogynistic.
Yeah. I know, it's horrible.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
It's such a silly fucking thing.
It's so funny. But like now looking back and I'm like, yeah, you know, marching band is not like a sport per se, but it's a form of like, you know, it's hard work.
I mean, you wouldn't call walking a sport, but walking is still certainly working out.
It's so true.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's an art form.
Yeah, it's an art form. It's not a sport, it's an art form.
It's an art form, yeah.
Talking a bit more about the world of this project, I was interested because your like artist trajectory is pretty fascinating in terms of like the stuff you have out now. It made me wonder like if you had a prior artist project, but I was curious because you have 2 projects out and then just one single which you just put out like a couple weeks ago, or I guess like last week, right? Yeah. Did you or do you think about music in a project way? Like when you think about songs and you're writing them, are you actively considering where they fit into the greater picture? I assumed it was that way because you only have an EP and the album out.
I think originally when I first started like seriously writing music, which was college, I didn't think of it like that. And I just kind of thought about writing and just seeing what stuck and what felt good. And also, like, during that time, I didn't know what kind of music I wanted to create. Like, I was trying everything, just kind of seeing what felt good and felt right. And I really don't think I found my sound until, like, that 2023 project.
Do you remember when you knew?
Yeah. Actually, I do remember when I knew. So I released, it's not on Spotify anymore. I think maybe it is still on SoundCloud, and it's definitely on YouTube. But I released like an EP in 2020, and it's like, it's cute to listen to now, because it was like my first time ever releasing music that I had written, and I was really proud of it, and it was free to make, because I, like, the girl that produced it for me, I sang at her wedding, and she was like, I will do your EP if you sing at my wedding. I'm like, hell yeah,
it's a hell of a deal.
So we did that together, and that I just kind of I was like, I didn't even expect anything. I wasn't even really trying to, like, do the artist thing. I was like, I'm just gonna release this and see what happens. And also that was, like, right at the start of COVID, which sucked, because I had planned to release it, like, in the fall of 2019, but then I got pushed and I was like, well, guess I gotta do it during a global pandemic. And then I took, like, a year off from that, and I wrote this song called Bite My Tongue, and I was like, oh, this is fun. Like,
what
I was
about
like,
it?
I loved the lyrics that I had written. I loved everything about it. And then when I built it out into what it was, it just hit. And I was like, damn, this feels good to just, like, rock the hell out. And just, like, not care about, like, that was, like, probably one of my first times trying anything with, like, vocoder too, because I've always loved Imogen Heap so much. Like, she's been a constant,
one of the greats,
inspiration to me since I was, like, 12. And I had always wanted to do something with vocoder, and there's, like, a bridge in that song where it's, like, a down chorus of the chorus, and I'm like, I really want it to build into this really thick vocoder. And we did it, and it was so fire. And it made me so happy, and I think, like, that was the first time I had released something that I felt really good about. And that I released as a single in 2021, and then when I released that EP project, we took all the past singles and just kind of, like, put them on that.
Gotcha.
So yeah, that was definitely it. And then, like, I started to just kind of figure out what I was doing. I didn't really know. I was like, and then I kind of went back to more of the folky thing, and I was like, maybe this is it. I was like, no, it's definitely not. Because I like pop music way too much. And I think just, like, after releasing that EP in 2023, that was kind of, I was like, all right, now I think I know what I want to do.
I think so many great artists that have very, very refined, like, styles and very refined sounds. I think very often, I think it was a lot, actually. I think very often, like, the average listener, and not to say that I'm not the average listener, but just, like, the majority of listeners, I think they label people based on the way that their voice sounds and nothing else. And I think, like, some of the greatest, right? Like, I think, like, that have very specific voices.
Exactly.
I think Julian Casablancas is a cool example of this, because, like, so much of the Strokes shit it just has that low pass filter on it.
Yeah, of course.
That, like, weird band pass effect where it's like he sounds like he's in another room. That to me is, like, the Strokes sound. And I think, like, a lot of the vocoder stuff is definitely your sound. And it paints, like, the rest of your world in a light where it's like everything comes after that. Because I think that's really important to have, like, a really strong guiding voice in whatever you're trying to say, especially if it's, on an album by album basis. And I think having a through line that can be something that really ties listeners into the next project.
I think, like, that was one thing that I found, and I think just in general my lyrics are pretty cohesive, just, like, in style, and it, like, I don't, like, there's not really a song where it's, like, super poetic. Like, all of my lyrics are pretty, like, hey, this is what I'm talking about. Like, this is, I mean, there's, hidden meanings behind songs.
There's some that are pretty out there and
That's
really
true.
cool and poetic.
Yeah, Blue Super Love is pretty crazy, but that's also like a druggy song.
It's interesting to hear you say like that about your lyrics though, because that's not how I perceive them. But
really?
like, yeah, not really at all. But it is cool that you say like you love pop music, because I think about that a lot too. I love pop music, and I think I love it as an idea sometimes more than I do sonically.
Yeah, true.
Just because I don't know, there's a lot of like homogenized bullshit, but at the same time, I love the idea of just like writing something melodically and vocally that is meant to just have an upfront melodic vocal that's like very present in the mix, because it really gives you like a kind of guiding voice for a greater album, which I think is something that a lot of people just like. I feel like it's popular to just shit on that. I don't know, for whatever reason. It's like people just label things
shit on pop music.
Yeah, and it's like, dude, my favorite thing is like when people say that and then you look through their playlist and it's like 90% pop shit.
You're like, girl.
Yeah. Do you feel like a lot of your influences come from that world, like the more upfront pop vocal world?
I think pop to me, like, obviously I grew up with like Taylor Swift and Selena Gomez and all those like
the greats.
Yeah, the greats. Taylor Swift and Selena Gomez, the two greats.
Yeah.
No, I love them.
That's like my Brian Eno and Arthur Russell, like Taylor Swift and Selena Gomez.
Wait, hold on. Do you remember Selena Gomez's Bollywood era?
No, what? That sounds racist. I don't.
No, it is. Do you remember? What was the? It was If You're Ready, Come and Get It.
Oh yeah,
she's in the desert.
Oh no,
in that video, like dressed.
That's like not okay,
bro. I like revisited it recently. I'm like, this is interesting.
Yeah. What's the song she had that it would always play on Disney Channel? The Heartbreak or
I Love You Like a Love Song.
Yeah, that one.
Song
kind of bangs.
Fire.
Yeah, kind of bangs.
That in the club goes nuts. Yeah,
plus
crazy.
Like everybody in our age group relatively knows it like word for word, bar for bar.
Exactly. Yeah. But I grew up listening to that, obviously, but I think like pop to me too is like Beatles.
Yeah, 100%.
And like Imogen Heap.
Yeah.
Imogen Heap was, I think, the first introduction to pop for me where I was like, this is not normal. This is not the pop that I'm hearing on the radio.
Yeah.
Like, this is intricate and cool, and like her voice was just like, I remember being shown that album. Is it Headlock? No. The main album.
Imogen Heap's?
Yeah.
Her big one?
Yeah.
She only has 2 albums, right?
Yeah. Is it called What?
What's it called?
Or Speak for Yourself?
Speak for Yourself.
She only has 2 albums, right, Mario?
No.
It's like, she's a bunch?
Frou. She's got the frou stuff too, which is sick. But like that album, I remember my cousin showed that to me on a train to Chicago, and I just listened and I was just like,
yeah.
I was like, holy shit.
Did you ever, what about it? Was it the vocals?
Yeah, it was the vocals. It was the production, which at the time I was like 12, maybe even younger. I had no idea what production was. I was like, I just love how this sounds and how it makes me feel. And I think just like,
yeah, the feeling in it is huge in her music.
Yeah. And then like, I don't know, I think pop just kind of became this thing that wasn't cool for a while.
Yeah, totally.
In our lifetime. Like, I think probably from like 8th grade to junior year of high school, it was like not cool to listen to pop.
Yeah, it's like pretentious people would just call anything they didn't like pop music.
Yeah. And I think that was when I realized that pop wasn't just the pop on the radio.
Yeah.
Like
100%.
I was like, oh my God, there's like so many, like at that time in my life, maybe when I was like 14, I didn't consider like old Britney Spears pop music for some reason. And then I was like, what? It's because everyone is labeling what is playing currently on the radio as pop music.
Yes, 100%.
And I was like, this is so weird. So I think just like knowing that and being like, damn, it's just all around us.
Yeah. But I guess like even on like a definition level, that's really all pop music is. It's pop. It means popular music.
Yes, exactly.
It's kind of become one of those like buzzwords that just like it's kind of like an all-encompancing term, similar to indie, where like people just say this. It's weird now that we think
indie.
of it's indie sleaze. Like now we think of indie as like not only like a sound but like an idea, which is so fucking weird because it was originally just like a term for independent music.
Yeah,
it's like what it meant. meant. It's like people would say that's an indie band because they're unsigned. That's like what that meant. But
and
then it developed
became
a
sound.
Yeah.
Which
and,
is
and I don't
crazy.
know. When you think of indie music, what do you think of? Because I think of like, you know, when I think of like what indie is of our era, I think of Mac DeMarco. That's like the first person that comes to my mind.
When I think of like indie sound, Mac DeMarco, like Bon Iver.
That's interesting.
That strikes me like that just feels, I don't know. It's crazy. It's like it could span so many different, I don't know. Like Vampire Weekend also feels indie to me. But I think like
I'm a certified Vampire Weekend hater.
You are?
Yeah.
You hate them?
I don't like them.
Damn, I love them.
Yeah, well, I've always been like a Vampire Weekend. Like my two buzzword hate artists are Jacob Collier and Vampire Weekend.
I hate Jacob Collier. Oh, I hope he hears this.
Let's go. Yeah.
I hope Jacob Collier hears my music and wants to work with me and then finds this and is like, actually, fuck her.
This could be more dissonant. He's like, what if we added a major seventh here? It's math music. It's NAMM music.
What if we sat Herbie Hancock down and told him that he didn't know music theory? What if we absolutely
Stevie
schooled
Wonder
him?
had absolutely no idea of music theory. I went to NAMM, recently for the first time.
You did?
Yeah, because my friend got me like a media
Where
pass
is
for
NAMM?
it. It's in like the OC. It's the Anaheim Convention Center.
Yeah.
Like literally right next to Disneyland.
Was he there?
Yeah, no. Maybe he was. I don't know. But I was like talking shit about him, giving my whole like Jacob Collier rant, as I do like way too often to like everybody I ever meet.
Of course.
And apparently I was saying that to my homie.
Oh no.
And then some influencer dude walked by who I didn't know, but he walked by, heard our conversation, and started laughing. Then my friend Tim, he was like, "You know who that is?" And I was like, "No." And he's like, "That guy went viral for shitting on Jacob Collier on Instagram Reels."
Funny.
So I was like, "Oh, that's my goat."
Dude, I remember because I went to a music college.
Interesting. I was going to ask about that.
Yeah, and you know, everyone was just sucking that guy off. Like the whole time. They were just praising him. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, like, he's astounding.
Yeah.
Like, it's unbelievable how talented he is.
Of course, yeah.
And I just remember being like, hell yeah, I'm going to listen to this music. And then I heard his cover of In My Room by the Beach Boys, and I was like, that is sacrilegious. Why would you do that to a perfect song? Why would you cover that song? That song should not be touched.
Yeah, I agree.
There
I
are certain
totally
songs
think that.
I'm like, don't fucking touch that song.
I agree. I totally agree.
And it's like, and I think there's like one song that I think of Jacob Collier's that I actually like. And I forgot. I think it's because there's minimal singing in it.
Yeah.
But also
I dislike his voice.
It's true.
And that to me, but this is like this is gonna be a crazy rant. But I think like the idea of liking a Jacob Collier song but not liking his voice is like the epitome of everything that's wrong with him, because he like, and also simultaneously he's probably the best singer like I've ever, or one of the best singers I've ever heard on like a theoretical technical level, but it's like quantifying music. It's like making music math. It's like seeping all of the emotion out of it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No, that's it. And I think I realized that you can be the most talented person in the whole world. You can be the best musician maybe in our generation.
Yeah.
And be not a good songwriter.
100%.
And it's like, that's okay. That's okay. And recently, I kind of forgot he existed for a long time because I just blocked it out.
Yeah.
And I think I was just in a completely different like world than him.
Yeah.
And then recently my best friend was in town. She came to visit me, and she and I, it was literally like one of the best nights of my life. Went to see Joni Mitchell at the Hollywood Bowl.
Dude,
and
so jealous.
Sobbed the whole time.
Yeah.
And we walk in, and right when it's at the Hollywood Bowl, right when we walk in, I look at the screen, there's Jacob Collier on keys. I'm like,
no, bro, it's like the craziest contrast of all time. It's like it's like everything good about music with everything bad about music playing keys.
And he's like, singing, and I'm like, oh my god, shut up. And Megan is like, who is that? I'm like, that's Jacob Collier.
Yeah, well, that contrast is crazy, because it's like everything good about music, like one of the most pivotal songwriters maybe ever, who like writes in this wildly emotional, metaphoric, incredible way, contrasted with somebody who's like trying to make music into math. It's just like, I don't know, like I think.
And it's like,
maybe this pissed me off so much because I think about music so emotionally.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, where it's like, I don't think music is that simple. No. I really don't. No. I think I've met people who are incredible at music theory that have never written a good song.
Yes, exactly.
And that may sound pretentious. I'm not the say all be all of what is a good song.
There's two sides of the coin.
Yeah.
You know, there's the pretentiousness of the people who hate the other side of the pretentiousness.
Yeah.
And it's just vice versa.
Yeah.
And I think it's honestly beautiful.
Yeah, it's
the
a
hate
great
is
war.
Beautiful.
It's a great war. And like, don't get me wrong, like I love a good shredder, dude. Like
me too.
If you're at a house show and some sweaty guy walks out and he just like rips a crazy solo, I'm here for it, Nasty bass lick, I love it.
And
but
I'll still listen to like jazz and be like, shit,
these cats are cooking.
God, they're cooking.
Mm-hmm.
Really, like, but then I think back to the horrible, horrible men that I went to college with.
Yeah, talk about that experience, because like I'm curious, not the men specifically, but like talk about like music theory or not music theory, music school as a whole, because it's always a very interesting thing to get people's perspectives on, because I think some of the best songwriters I know tend to have a very big disdain for the way that music school is structured, and also like the way that people look at songwriters in music school.
Yes, I think every person that I have met that I adore and respect and think is so talented and just like has gone to music school, out of those people, the people that have gone to music school usually didn't like it.
Yeah.
And I have that same outlook. I mean, my music school was weird. It was a small school in Detroit.
Where'd you go?
It's gone.
Oh,
now. But I will say the name. It was called I don't care. I'll drag them.
You don't have to if you don't want to.
No, I'll drag them. Okay. It was called the Detroit Institute of Music Education, DIME.
I was just a DIME.
DIME for short. That was the acronym. Honestly, fire acronym.
Yeah,
like
DIME.
Sick. I go to DIME.
Yeah.
Cool.
That is kind of hard.
Yeah, it's sick.
Yeah.
Run by two British people.
Okay.
That have two like lifelong music industry, like, they've had a lot of experience.
Yeah.
They're professionals. They moved here from London or wherever they're from. I actually don't know. And opened this school in Detroit, Michigan.
Why there?
Well, they loved the pulse of the city. I'm like,
what the fuck does that mean?
Okay. And then kind of just like, I mean, Detroit is like predominantly a black city. Like, and the music that has been historical for Detroit is like Motown music.
Yeah.
And R&B and hip hop and house and like all of this music that was originated by black people. Yeah. And it's just
most music is in general, I guess, but
of course, rock and roll. Like, it's just all stemmed from that.
Pretty much every form of pop music.
Yes,
yeah.
I know. It's incredible. Yeah. But so they do this, two white people, and obviously
they ban rap.
Banned rap. No.
They pull like a Ben Shapiro where they say rap isn't real music.
God, no, but obviously like a lot of the students at the school were black, and like it just felt like they were shining light on the white students, which felt weird. Uncomfortable. Anyway, but this is where it gets crazy.
Yeah.
There were about very small school. Like my graduating class was like 20 people.
Oh shit.
So small. I mean, Detroit is not a big city.
Those are the kind of small schools where you can hold those kinds of secrets. Yeah.
Yeah. So there was this weird group, like maybe 5 people. But 5 people can do a lot of damage.
Yeah.
5 people who were stark conservative Republicans at a music art school.
That's crazy.
Doesn't compute in my brain.
No.
Doesn't compute in anyone's brain.
Yeah. How do you get there?
I don't know. And it's also like, these courses that you're taking are like liberal arts courses.
Yeah.
And we had to take gen eds, obviously. And the gen eds that we took were like the journalism stuff we took was very liberal. Yeah. Because it's a fucking
liberal art school.
Art school.
Yeah.
So it was just obscene to see these racist, conservative kids, students at my school. And like, obviously I went to college during the Trump presidency.
Yeah.
So that put such an uncomfortable taste in everyone's mouth, and
also,
it was just
like post-COVID, they were just all uncaged, like they were swinging for the fences,
dude. Insane. So it's just like, it was so odd, and like, it just so happened that one of those students was extremely talented, very, very good guitarist, and like, you know, we're at school. I'm not gonna be like, and we're being encouraged to play with each other, and like, whatever, we have recitals, and I had to like find guitarists to play in my band if I wanted to perform, and he was very talented, and it was just like so crazy to just like hear people talk about that stuff there. I was like, what the hell? But anyway, music school, very small, especially if you go to a small one. Yeah. Horrible vibes. Just drama everywhere. Yeah. And also, like, everyone is just like putting masturbatory music on a pedestal. Yeah. Like
what's that word you said?
Masturbatory.
What's that mean?
Like masturbation.
Oh,
like,
gotcha.
like just like
that's a great word.
Like musical masturbation, which is like Jacob Collier.
Yeah, just like circle jerking to like
literally
like
just
like chords.
Just playing music solely for like jaw dropping reactions. And like, I get that if you're being taught like jazz theory and everything, like that's gonna come with that. But it's also just like, dude, play some cowboy chords and sing a song. Yeah. Like, Jesus.
Or like say something. Yeah. Like, are you making music to say something, or are you making music because you're interested in the complexity of it?
That's exactly what it was. And I think like that's what music school taught me for a while, was that it has to be complex, it has to be intricate, and I think like not they weren't teaching that, but I think like just everyone started to like, what's the word? Oh God. Everyone started to like adopt that mindset. Yeah. And it just like ruined music for me for a while. Yeah. And I was like, ugh. And suddenly like I started listening to all of it, and I got sucked into it too. I was like, damn, I love this crazy, crazy music that makes me have a panic attack when I listen to it. Yeah. And it's like, and then I think like I got back into my roots later in music college, like my last 2 years, and I started listening to like Elliott Smith again, and I never stopped listening to Radiohead, and Radiohead does scratch that itch.
Oh, for sure.
For those
incredibly musical and incredible songwriters.
See, that's a perfect example.
Oh, 100%.
Perfect example. That's why they're the best band ever. Yeah. I'll say it.
Critically, for sure.
Yeah. They are my favorite band.
That's valid. I mean, like Radiohead, I think without a doubt is the most critically acclaimed band of all time. Yeah, they gotta be,
and rightfully so.
Yeah, I agree.
But yeah,
just the run, bro, from album to album. Like sorry, I totally cut you off there.
No, music school, blah. Anyway.
Yeah, no, I feel it. I think I've always thought there's something. I think most people think this. I don't think it's like a hot take, but I think like there's something so uniquely human about music. That's probably my favorite thing about it. Like it's it's cliche or corny to say, I guess, but like it really is a universal language where it transcends like just the differences that we may have based on like how we look at each other, how we see each other, things about like how we grew up, stuff like that. It's just like at a root, it's so human, sharing experience. And I think when you kind of like strip that away from it, right? Yeah. Strip away that like sharing of experience, which at its base level, I believe is one of the most musical things that you possibly can do, down to like a prehistoric level. Yeah. It's like just sharing stories.
It's like a form of communication.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So it's like when you kind of like strip that away from it, and you just focus on like the complexities of like music theory, specifically because you have the goal of like of just like being pretentious and saying you're better than somebody, I think you kind of lose everything special about music.
Yeah, you do.
I also think like you can't, and I talked about this in an interview yesterday, but I'll say it again, like I have never understood, like people have told me before they've taken songwriting classes. Yeah. And I have never understood what that means.
It's weird.
Yeah.
It is so odd. and it feels wrong.
Yeah, like what do you learn in a songwriting class? How to talk about your life? Like what do you,
I mean like
structure? Like
yeah, they teach you structure. And I'm like you can learn that from listening to music and studying it on your own. And you don't have to have someone telling you that this is how you can do it.
Yeah, I'll teach you structure. A B A B.
There you go.
Yeah,
perfect.
You just learn structure.
Oh, verse, pre, chorus, verse, chorus, bridge, outro.
Yeah.
Or chorus again.
There you go.
There's your song.
There's structure.
So it's just like I don't know. But yeah, no, it was odd. The only songwriting class that I've ever taken it just felt wrong to me, and it felt like I couldn't write. I don't know.
Interesting. Yeah.
And I've just learned so much just from watching people write songs or just being 100%. In sessions and co-writing with people.
Yeah.
Like I've become a better songwriter simply from writing with other people.
And like just watching.
Yeah.
And watching the way, because I don't know, I think like all songwriting is at its core is a transmission of emotions.
Yep.
It's how well can you translate your emotions to somebody else in a way that either they project onto or it makes them think about something in their life. It's all about relatability. And I don't think there's a science to that. I really don't. Because I think it's like trying to quantify like a million different stories and a million different there's no science to it. It's just how well can you make somebody feel something.
Yeah
It's
I love it.
Yeah, no, it's I don't think it's teachable. I really don't.
It's not.
Yeah,
definitely.
It's a strange thing to think about, and it's one of those things where it's like I really feel like, I mean, I don't know. I don't want to be the whole like I hate music school guy. I didn't. I went to a year of music industry.
But it's okay if you say that.
I didn't go to like music school. I went to a year of music industry studies school at.
Whoa.
Yeah, I know. Just like just like industry guy. Like
oh my god.
At a community college. One of like the most useless.
Did they teach you how to be an asshole?
Did they just taught you like what an A&R was? Like
which is an asshole.
Which is an asshole. Yeah. And but what's crazy to me about that too, it's like teaching something that evolves at a pace that's so rapid that we can't even like comprehend it.
No.
It's like you'd have to update the curriculum every 2 fucking weeks. It's like they were just like teaching you terms. It was just like this is what an A&R is. This is what a manager is. This is like how a booking agency and a management company and like a label correspond. It's just like. I mean,
that
so silly.
Like being an agent, that might be a teachable thing because it's kind of just like or like booking that's teachable I guess because it's just like logistics, but like how could you ever teach anyone to be an A&R?
Yeah, it's like how do you teach somebody to have taste?
Yeah,
well, it's
that's
interesting.
That's all you have to have.
It's interesting,
and
though.
Most of them don't.
Yeah, not at all. I would argue the vast majority don't. But it's interesting because now I would say though that like based on the way that the modern major label function, you probably could teach somebody how to be an A&R because you're kind of just teaching them how to be an analytics slave.
I could teach them how to be an A&R.
Yeah,
I could be an A&R.
Yeah. Let's cite graphs. Yeah, let's look at graphs. Let's look at chart data and let's see what's moving. That's like the modern version of what an A&R is at a major.
Yeah, which like. If you got that down, you're golden.
Yeah. Has it been weird moving here? Because you've only been here for less than a year, you said now. Yeah. Kind of like implementing yourself into like the modern like music industry or whatever. Like, has it been weird kind of like being around more of those people? And has there been any weird growing pains?
I think so. I think like I'm very, very happy that I moved here in my late 20s. Yeah. If I would have moved here, oh my God. If I would have moved here when I was like 23, even 20. I feel like even if I would have moved at 25, it would have been so different.
Yeah,
and I think like now I've had experiences with all sorts of people in my life where I kind of know what to look out for and know like who I want to surround myself with and what kind of energy I want to be in and around. But like, I don't know. I think most of the experiences I've had with people here have luckily been very good.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Because I know there's some real stinkers.
That there are.
And I feel like maybe I've, had discussions with them, but I kind of just have let it, I don't know. I think I've found my group.
That's amazing.
Which is good.
Yeah.
And yeah, it makes me very happy.
That's pretty quick. I mean, like, I definitely don't feel like I think when I moved here, I was around a lot of people that I was just around because I moved here and they were around or whatever.
Exactly.
But I don't think I particularly loved them or the way they looked at the world or anything about them really.
Yeah.
And I think like maybe in the past year, I think I've really found like a very tight-knit group of friends that I think I resonate with more so on a level that's like human opposed to just musical.
Yeah.
Whereas I think that can be a really weird thing moving to LA, where it's like you're just music 24/7 365, and we forget to be human beings.
Yeah.
And then we're basing our friendships based on like does our taste align? Can we work together? Whatever. When it's like that's so like non-human and weird.
I know. Most of my friends here are in their 30s, which is cool. So sick, because I feel like I don't know. I hate being 27, and I'm gonna turn 28 this year, which is horrifying.
You got a few years left. You're good.
God, but like seeing people in their 30s, like my friends, just like feeling like, to me it doesn't feel like I'm 27 turning 28. It feels like I'm like 24 still, and to me it feels like they're like 28 and 29. And it's like which I think is really interesting, and also like now I'm accepting more that I'm kind of getting to that age where I'm like, I want to do cool adult things. Like I don't want to get married or have kids, but I want to like host dinner parties. And like maybe not go out all the time, and like
drink wine. Have a game night. You know, my friends and I were like, let's do a pickling party where we pickle things. Awesome. And I'm like, that's so late 20s. Does that take forever?
Probably. I don't know. We'll see. I just want to pickle something.
That's a vibe. I feel it.
It is.
No, I get that. I mean, I think when I'm 23. I think when I moved here originally, I felt like the youngest person in every room, and it's been weird in the last year trying to develop that sense of like I'm no longer the youngest person in every single room. I'm usually on like the younger side, I suppose, but like it was really weird, like I think in the last year grasping like I'm no longer the youngest person in every single room. I've also been in music since I was 16, so like I was always like the youngest. And then it's weird.
That's so cool.
Yeah, I mean it was cool. I think I met a lot of people who were older than me that I simultaneously was incredibly intimidated by, but I learned a ton from. And I think it's been interesting as I've gotten older and done more things, and I think like what I'm trying to do, what I'm trying to build have become clearer from the outside perspective. I think feeling adjacent to some of those people has been kind of healing for me. Where it's like now I'm realizing like, oh, like, this person never like had this strange outward perception of me that I thought they had. They just had, you know, like a normal perception of me, but like I thought they hated me because I was a kid, you know?
Damn. Yeah, that's gotta be, wow. Yeah, I can't imagine like being in the music industry that young.
I definitely was in the music industry that young. I just was around a ton of music.
You're around it.
I feel like oh god, that's so weird to define. Like when did I get into like the music industry or whatever? I don't know. I guess when I moved to LA. Just when you were around it 24/7.
That makes sense.
Did you feel like the first couple months you moved here it was hard to find some of those friends that you're around now that you cherish so deeply?
I think that when I was visiting and making the album, I was kind of introduced to a lot of people, which was really sick.
That's awesome.
And my producer Nigel, like I've just kind of adopted his friends as my friends, which is so cool. And my friend Zoe has introduced me to a lot of people too that I like really love. And it just kind of happened that I was immediately thrown into friend groups where I just was like, oh my god, these people are awesome. So I think like knowing that, I was like, all right, I'm gonna hold on to these people, and like then I've met people through those people, and like those are now my friends. So it's like, I don't know, I think very, very fortunately I was immediately introduced to people that I vibed with very well.
Damn, so, that's awesome. I feel like that's rare.
I mean, I've met people here that I did not vibe with too. And that's fine. That's everywhere.
I think that's normal. I mean, I think that's just the truth about moving from city to city. Had you lived in other cities prior to moving to LA, or had you always been in Michigan?
I lived in Chicago for 1 year.
Interesting. What was that like?
I love Chicago. I think it's so cool. I think it's a perfect city.
It's really cool.
It's like it's a perfect size. It's like, it's just like if you want a big city but don't want to be overwhelmed in New York, like Chicago is so sick.
Totally.
It's awesome. And it's right next to a lake. Like it's awesome. I love Chicago.
I went once, like, I guess like 3-4 years ago now with a friend of mine, because he lived in St. Louis and we drove out there for a show, and I instantly fell in love with it because I think out of any city I've been to, it feels the most like San Francisco to me than any other city I've been to.
I love San Francisco.
Really?
Yeah, I think it's so cool.
Have you been there a lot?
I've been there a couple times on tour.
Okay, nice. Where'd you play?
Oh God, I don't.
Do you remember?
No.
Yeah.
What are the venues?
There's a ton. I mean, like.
We're like the
what are the popular ones right now?
smaller-ish.
Brick and Mortar, Cafe de Nord, like Bottom of the Hill, Rickshaw Stop.
Rickshaw Stop.
Oh.
Yep.
Yeah. The room with the low ceilings.
I remember. I think we played another venue there, but I remember Rickshaw Stop being that one.
You liked it though?
Yeah, I just like. It's so cool. Yeah. I need to actually explore. Like, I want to take a drive up there and explore it, and I also really want to go to Alcatraz.
Oh, dude, it's pretty cool. I don't think it's like, I don't know, maybe it's like novel to me now because I've been there so many times.
I think so. But
I do think like it definitely lives up to the hype. It is really cool. It's pretty interesting.
We drove on the bridge and saw it, and I was just like,
yeah,
the window's so cool.
That's the coolest. I will say I think the view of it from the bridge is cooler than the view of it from like Coit Tower or any of like the towers, just because you're kind of like leveled with it, so you get like a weird perception of it.
It's so gross.
Yeah,
it's so cool.
Yeah, it's one of my. San Francisco is my favorite city in the world. I love that city so dearly.
Really cool.
Yeah. I want to talk about, like, it was cool you touched on it earlier. Some of the themes of like existentialism all over this project and just growing up and getting older and like trying to come to grips with that and that weird tumultuous process. Where Are You Going? The second song of the project is a really interesting one, and I really like kind of the themes of stagnation within it. But I was curious, like, were those things that were present, because you said you were writing the project last year and you said you're 27, so you were 26 when you were writing it. So you're talking a lot about being 27, which is only a year in advance from when you actually just like were writing the project consciously. Yeah. So when you were kind of in that state of mind and writing some of those songs, was that feeling of stagnation present? And do you still feel that way now, or is it something you're like constantly working through? Because I related to it a lot.
Yeah, I actually don't feel it as much.
That's cool.
For sure. I think from time to time I'll feel it, or I'll be scared that it'll come back.
Yeah.
But I think Where Are You Going is a song that's simultaneously about me and about the relationship I was in at the time, which was so stagnant. Like, it was a relationship that was done far in advance before it was actually done.
Yeah.
Like, so I think just it was very much like a what the hell is going on?
Yeah.
Like, this is just a complete dead-end relationship. And it was taking such a big toll on me as a person too. Yeah. And I was taking a huge toll on him as well. And I think just like that song, which was fucked because I wrote it with him in the studio. Oh. And like, and I don't think like subconsciously I knew I was writing it about him.
Yeah.
But
oh my God.
Obviously I wasn't going to say like, oh, this is about you. Yeah. But I think he like kind of picked up on it and then like asked me one time, and I was like, oh, that song's about you. And he was like, ouch. I'm like, yeah. Oh.
Honestly, the only acceptable answer there. Ouch.
And I mean, it's not a cruel or angry song. No, it's more just melancholy and just like, I don't know what's happening. This is sad. This is unfortunate. Yeah. This is how it is. So, but yeah, the part like, I really love my favorite part of that song is the vocals happening at the same time, where it's, hey, where are you going? And then the other vocal is saying, if you want, I'll meet you when it's time. If you want, I'll meet you when it's right.
Yeah, that call and response.
Yeah, and that was the part about the relationship, because I'm like,
interesting.
Maybe someday.
Yeah, and I mean there is something beautiful about that.
Yeah.
I definitely think I relate to that feeling of stagnation in terms of not in like a relationship thing, but in terms of like just a life thing. Like, yeah. I think that feeling of just being stuck in the same place and not being able to take that jump to the next stage is really, really, it can be really crippling.
Oh my God, I know.
Because you just kind of feel like you're in a loop.
Yeah.
You know?
It literally like hurts your stomach.
Yeah.
Like I was just like, every day I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know where I should go. I don't know what I should do. Like, yeah. So I think that song was very much also about me moving out here, because at that time I knew I would wanted to, but I was like kept pushing it and pushing it and pushing it. I'm like, I'm not ready. I'm not financially ready.
Yeah.
So, but yeah.
Like that feeling of kind of standing on the edge and staring at the cliff and just like anticipating the jump.
Yep.
That can be the scariest thing in the world.
Yeah, it's awful.
Yeah, it's really bad.
Yeah.
But I'm a firm believer in taking that jump.
Yeah.
I think like everything, I don't remember who said this. I recently heard, I'm trying to remember who said this. I don't know. I read this somewhere recently, but it was a quote where someone said, everything you want is on the other side of fear. And I really resonated with that.
Yeah.
And I think like constantly chasing that fear in every setting, right? Be it like career, relationship, life, whatever.
Yeah.
Constantly chasing that fear is kind of the most exciting and productive place as a person I think you can be.
Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah, but it's hard.
It's so hard.
Yeah. Was moving to LA like that kind of that big jump for you, kind of staring at that cliff?
Yeah. And it's like, yeah, it was definitely, I think just moving anywhere else for me would have scratched the itch a little bit, but definitely moving out here.
Yeah.
I mean, I came out here for the first time when I was 18 with my mom and fell in love with it. I was like, yeah, I had always had this like weird love. My dad and I talk about it all the time. And we feel such a connection to like the southwest area of the country for some reason.
So like Texas area?
Kind of, but maybe more
Arizona?
like, yeah, like that kind, like it just, this part of the country just feels so good. And my dad had never ever come anywhere past like Colorado until he came to visit me in October when I moved out here.
What do you think?
He was like, I will drop everything and move out.
Whoa.
I'm like, you should.
He's a musician that never been to LA?
I know.
Damn,
Isn't that
that's crazy.
Yeah, he loves it. But I think I'd always known it was either New York or here. And I started visiting out here a lot more. And I was like, yeah, I just feel a deeper connection to LA than New York. And I love New York, but also it stresses me out a little bit.
Interesting. It's way faster.
It is. And I think now also being in my late 20s, LA is a really good place because it's not super fast. Like, you know, New York I think would have been really fun in my early 20s.
Interesting.
But yeah.
Yeah, I definitely want to do a New York stint at some point. I was just talking about this. I really want to live there.
That's not out of the
eventually.
question for me. I like would love to live there for a second.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you kind of moved here and took that jump and got over those emotions of stagnation, did you feel any sort of resolution immediately, or did it take time?
No, like I didn't feel it immediately, but I think it, like the new year was kind of the moment for me where
Symbolic.
I was like, this feels like it. Like this feels like what I've been working through has finally like come to a close, and maybe not a full close, like it might still be a little bit open, but like it's like that felt very symbolic for me, very like kind of just like a big exhale. Because also like I was dealing with, you know, leaving my home, leaving my friends.
It's hard.
I had literally like I went through my breakup the day I left. We broke up the moment I drove away from the home.
That's a lot.
To drive here.
So like you broke up and then like literally left and then like
well, it had been planned.
Yeah.
We knew it was happening. It was very, very layered situation. But
that's just so much change so fast.
I know.
But
really insane.
But I think being on the other side of that fear, there's something really, really beautiful about that. It's like a true new beginning where like everything is different.
And that's how it felt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's one of the coolest things I think about moving away from your hometown, and I definitely felt this very deeply. It was like when you grow up somewhere in a very similar place for a very long time, you know, within a very localized vicinity, there's very much like a perception of you amongst your peers. Yeah. And then you can move somewhere and just entirely reinvent yourself, which is kind of the coolest thing ever.
It's kind of awesome. But I mean, it's like, that's not healthy.
Is it not?
Per se. I mean, if you're trying to run away from something, that's not healthy.
Yeah, you're probably right.
But like, I think for me, like Detroit had felt like I had just kind of done everything I needed to do there. And I had kind of, like it was like I'd hit the ceiling a little bit, and I was like, I don't think there's anything left for me here. And you know, LA is like an unreachable ceiling. Yeah. So
I know the feeling.
Which is kind of awesome. I'm like, damn. Yeah. I could take, you know, I don't know.
Yeah.
So many different. Yeah, it's super fun.
I felt very similarly about moving here from the Bay Area. I think the Bay Area is a very small place, I think, and I feel but I've also felt pretty conflicted because I have so much love for that place on like such a deep level.
Oh, that's me with Detroit too.
Yeah,
like, I love it.
But then there's kind of that sense of pride that comes with it when you're in a city full of people who aren't from the city. A lot of the times, a lot of LA transplants. Yeah, you kind of have that sense of pride about where you're from, and also like I feel very deeply like. I don't know, like my dream is to open a venue in San Francisco, like to kind of like bring things that you've achieved back to the place that you're from. I think there's a lot of pride and a lot of beauty in that.
For sure.
When I want to talk about cross my fingers as well. I know we touched on it briefly, but kind of like sticking with that theme of like taking that jump and like, you know, kind of escaping that stagnation. Cross my fingers is interesting because I think it's less about you know, excuse my perception if it's incorrect, but I think it's less about some of that stagnation and more so about like the feeling that you were describing when you said you wrote it from another perspective. Yeah, it's really cool. I think like there was some beauty in it because I was kind of perceiving it as a love song more so.
It is.
Yeah.
It definitely is a love song.
It really reminded me. There's a song I love by Quinny called. I mean, it's the Quinny song, I guess, but like Touch Tank, the huge song. But like, there's some themes in both those songs about kind of like having your walls broken down. Yeah. And like being open to being vulnerable with people. And I think there's something that song really hits the nail on the head in terms of like finding the person that like makes you feel okay being vulnerable, which I think is one of the most beautiful things in the world. But like kind of making that song, was the goal always to have some of those more melancholic lyrics be contrasted over such like a bright major chord instrumental?
Oh yeah.
Because I think when you describe it, you know, from writing from somebody else's perspective, that really hits the nail on the head. Because like the instrumental is very like cheery. It's like fun. A bunch of major chords and stuff. Fun.
No, I wanted it to sound like that because I think it's like such a. And also that specific relationship with that person in my life it was like I fucked that up. Like I screwed that relationship up and like I just felt so terrible about it for so long. Yeah. And I was like, yeah, it would be so nice to kind of just close that chapter with a beautiful like just banger of a song. Like it just felt so fun. It felt like a sunny drive song.
That's how it feels.
Yeah. So that's what I wanted because like the lyrics they're not sad, but they're not super happy. They're yearning. Yeah. They're yearning lyrics. So
yeah, I can totally see that perception. Like I think I perceived it a bit happier just because I was thinking about like the ideas of like finally finding somebody and like taking that jump to feel okay, which I think can be a very scary thing,
of course,
for sure. It's like allow somebody into your life in that way. But I was curious, I was interested because it was so like the instrumental is so cheery and the lyrics don't necessarily match that as much, but it's very Radiohead actually. Like the contrast between like the really happy lyrics and then they kind of have like a really, you know, they'll do it in the opposite way where they have a really sad song but really happy instrumental.
Yeah. I know.
But it's interesting.
I take a lot of points from them.
Are they like a big reference point?
Oh, they're like the reference point.
Yeah.
The reference point. Yeah. All the time.
That's cool because like I see a lot of your writing in that vein, but it's also not like super on the nose. Like I don't think I would like necessarily assume that.
That's cool. Thank you. Because sometimes I'll write a song and I'm like, damn, that sounds just like Radiohead.
No, yeah, I feel it. I mean, music isn't made in a vacuum.
It's true.
You know?
Yeah.
I always hate when people like try to hide their influences and act like they don't exist.
It's fine.
Yeah.
We're all influenced by people. Like it's totally, you know, it's normal.
Yeah. I mean, music is so like there's so much history that goes into it that it's like how could you possibly like
nothing
have
is
an original thought?
No. You don't.
Yeah.
You don't have an original thought.
Yeah. There's kind of a cool turning point on the project, I think. You Poor Thing, definitely one of my favorite songs on the album. But it's the first song where it kind of hits like I don't know how to like label it per se technically, but that massive drop in it is way more like shoegazy and harder than anything that comes prior to it on the project. It's definitely the first moment, the first hit of kind of like that harder instrumental. And I saw that it was self-produced, which is it, or was that right? The credit said that. Was that correct?
Doesn't say that.
Yeah.
Maybe.
On Tidal it did.
I mean, I think it's my friend and I wrote it and made it in Detroit one night, like just he and I. And like if I really wanted to, I would put myself as a producer credit on every song.
Yeah.
Because, like, I'm doing so much talking. And so there's, like, I know what I want the song to sound like. I'm just not at the DAW doing it.
Yeah.
But I think, like, definitely co-produced in a way. But that song was so fun because he and I just, like, had a session scheduled together, and we were trying to write something really pretty on piano, and I was like, I'm gonna be honest with you. I was like, I'm so fucking mad right now. I'm like, can we just write a really angry song? I was like, I want to scream. I want to scream. And he was like, okay, cool, yeah. So we just started writing, and I was like, we should just write about someone so fucking pathetic that you just can't have sympathy for them. Yeah. Like, you're like, you do it to yourself. Like, you just, this is all you. And he started talking to me about a family member of his who kind of fit that mold. And he was like this guy going through like a midlife crisis, just like absolute fucking pathetic guy. Yeah. And I just kind of started writing lyrics about it. And we've just like finished the song in a couple of hours. And I was like, cool.
Yeah. What a cool thing for a producer to do, to open up like that. Yeah. And kind of like allow his experience to like, you know, go into the songwriting process.
He's like a good friend of mine too. So like he and I, whenever we would write anything or just like have a session, we would just like deep talk about stuff.
Yeah.
That's fun.
Yeah. I think the best producers are kind of like therapists sometimes.
Yeah, they are.
Or like they definitely have it's all psychology. Yeah. It's like a skill of like getting something, you know, emotional out of somebody.
Exactly.
Which I think can be really hard to do because I think it can come across as like, I don't know, prying maybe?
Oh, of course. Yeah. But that song is one of my favorites that I've ever written. Yeah. I love it so much.
It feels like a turning point in the album because like
it is.
Prior to that, there aren't very many angry moments. A lot of the emotions are more layered and like.
That's when you're like, she's mad.
Yeah.
She's mad.
Yeah. Do you remember why you were mad when you wrote it?
Yeah.
Yeah. You don't have to talk about it if you don't want to. I was just curious.
No, I mean, you know, like I said, I was in multiple toxic relationships. Yeah. Not, you know, only one romantic, but, you know, there were just like horrible moments that I was going through at that point in my life. So I think just like, I was just mad about a lot. And I was just like a very angry person at that point, which was the entire process of writing this album. And I think a lot of it is very angry. So. Do
you think you got out of that? Did you write through it, you think?
Yeah.
Nice.
I mean, I definitely am still angry, but I think now I look at it as like fun angry. Yeah. Like, You Poor Thing, like that scream was like a demon coming out of me. Like I needed that.
It was almost like vocal fry. Like it was on some like metal shit.
Dude, it was so fun to do that. And we did it in one take. I looked at my friend Sean, who was the producer. I'm like, don't you fucking make me do that again. And he was like, all right, I won't.
well, there's no way that was going to be as real the second time as it was the first time.
Or maybe we did it like twice. But it was like, I was like, I'm not doing this more than however. And then we just like would layer it.
Yeah, that's one of the coolest things about not only live tracking but live performing as well.
Yeah,
it's like really capturing the sound of the room. I think that's like what so many of my favorite live performers do. They have this ability to kind of like curate the room to feel like how they're feeling. Yeah, just like commanding it. Exactly. You know, like I think there's something so like that's hard to do.
It's really hard to do.
Yeah,
it's like I think one of the most captivating shows that I've ever watched. I'm trying to think. There's been so many. I think probably the most captivating show I've ever seen was Caroline Polachek.
Yeah, she's great. I
was just like jaw open the whole time. Like I'm just so in awe of her and everything she does. But yeah, I was just like, and she's not, you know, she's not like, her songs are emotional, but they're not outwardly emotional. She's just such an insane performer.
Yeah, I've never seen her. What about
She's incredible. Like, it's just, I think for me personally, it's just my respect for her live vocals and like the way that she can move around and still sound that good is beyond me. Yeah. And also like, I just love theatrics live, and I love like little dances that she does. And you know, it's just like, yeah, she's just a force. She's just like, she walks out and you're like, yep.
Yeah.
There she is.
There's some people who I think do that like intentionally, and there's some people who just have it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. She just has it.
And I think that can even come down to like, there's so much that goes into that. Like, it's like, are you like, how confidently are you addressing the crowd?
Yes.
How's your body language?
Mm-hmm.
I think as shitty as this is, I do feel like whenever anybody's nervous on stage,
it shows.
It
like, does show.
It's really hard to beat that out of yourself.
I know. I've had some shows where I was so nervous.
Really?
And you can tell. Yep.
Do you feel like touring has helped with that? Are you better with the nerves now?
Yeah, it's like nothing for me now. Yeah.
These last shows with Wallace, were those the biggest rooms you'd played so far?
No, I did a really small run with the Japanese house a year or two ago, and I just played like 3 shows with her, and those were the biggest rooms I played. But I also just played those like solo, me and a guitar.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
How were the nerves prior to that? And do you feel like after that point everything was easier?
Yes, I think the most nervous I've ever been before a show was in Detroit, opening for the Japanese house with my full band. I had my full band for that show.
Yeah.
But it was like a venue I'd wanted to play for so long.
That's so cool.
The room was so big. There were so many people there. And I was just like, please, God, let this go well. And also, like, Amber had brought me onto this tour without even really, like, knowing me for that long. And I was like, please don't let her down.
How'd you find it? Was she just, like, a fan of the music?
No, I met her. Her fiance is from Detroit.
Oh.
Yeah, so we met through her.
And then he put her on.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, they're getting married.
Aw.
Yeah.
That's so sweet.
I know.
Damn, she kind of did you a solid. That's really cool.
Yeah, she did. I'm like forever grateful for her. It was so cool.
Yeah, that's sick. That had to be a crazy tour.
It was really cool.
What was the venue that you always wanted to play in Detroit?
The Majestic.
Oh, what a crazy name.
It's awesome.
Yeah?
It's a really cool room. It's like, yeah, it's just like big and just nothing. Like it's just a big room of nothingness.
Yeah.
It's so sick. And it's old. There's like the ceiling is really cool.
Oh, the old venues are always my favorite.
I know.
I bet playing a room like that where you're from had to be so like healing your inner kid that never thought you were gonna get to do it.
I know. It was so sick.
Yeah, that's like dreams being realized in real time. That's so cool. All right, Allie Evenson, thanks for doing this.
Of course. Thank you. Sorry, I just made it clear.
You're good.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course. Your project's amazing, front to back.
You.
Definitely one of my favorites of last year. I'm very, very happy we got to discuss it. Last thing I want to ask you, if you could translate one message through the project, like one thing that you hope people would get from it, one lesson from it, if you will, what would it be? Sorry, I know it's like overarching and broad.
It is, because there are multiple messages, but I think allow yourself to feel uncomfortable emotions. Like, allow yourself to sit in the uncomfortableness of, if you're going through something and you're like, God, this sucks, allow yourself to feel it and just feel it. Because, like, it's just, things get better, things change, things like I think that point in my life, nothing will ever be as bad as that. And like certain times where I'm like, this sucks so bad, but I'm like, it's only gonna get better, things are gonna change, you're gonna evolve, whatever. So just like feel all of those things and just sit with them and maybe write about it.
Yeah.
And maybe scream about it.
Yeah. Or everything in between. Just feel everything. I think emotions are so beautiful, even the horrible ones. So, yeah. I think there's so much of that on this album, like the feeling of figuring out how to get through that fear.
Yeah.
Like sitting in it, really understanding it, and then moving on from it.
I feel like I studied it.
Yeah.
Like I sat so long in it that I was like, wow, I'm like becoming too good at this. And I was like, I gotta get out of this.
Yeah. Everything you want on the other side of fear.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's true.
Yeah. Allie, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, this is a great conversation. I really appreciate it.
It's so much fun.
Yeah, me too.
I love yapping.
Yeah, me too. I'm lucky enough to do it as a job.
Yeah, exactly.
Tell them where they get the project, where they could stream it, where they could find you on everything.
I'm on every streaming service.
All of them.
All of them. Even the ones you probably don't know about, because there are ones that I don't know about.
I listened on Tidal.
There you go. Tidal. Jay-Z.
Jay-Z, shout out.
I know.
My goat.
And you can follow me on Instagram Allie 2 underscores Evenson. Don't know why there are 2. Just thought it was cute.
Fuck it.
I'm on Twitter. I'm kind of funny on Twitter.
Let's go.
And also, I have a deluxe of the album coming out next month.
Whoa.
5 new songs.
Crazy drop.
I know. Crazy drop.
Damn.
We're announcing it Monday, so it's fine that I say it.
Yeah. Damn, that's so exciting.
I know.
Oh, hell yeah.
I'm so pumped.
Yeah, I'm very excited to hear it.
Yeah. 5 new songs.
Fuck yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And a
sick.
cover.
Nice.
I'm not going to say it.
But not one of the untouchable ones.
Mm-mm.
One of the
not
touchable
an untouchable ones. I think a very touchable one.
Nice, okay.
And hopefully I did it justice.
Sick.
So we'll see.
Fuck yeah. Allie, thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate it. Music matters.